Okay, welcome back. We're on page 560 talking about a content management system. You know, in the context of web, for just a minute, let's say I contact an internet service provider, a web hosting provider, and they're not really expecting me to know an awful lot about HTML. So they provide a content management system that I log into and I copy files up to it, and it automatically puts them where they're supposed to be and does all that kind of stuff. So this is a good way to make like a wiki or have something, so you don't have to know, like if I want to add a new API in here, how the heck do I do that? I mean, you would have to have somebody with some skills, and so I don't want that. So I want a content management system that goes on top of this so that anyone could go in and kind of click on things and get precisely what they want. Basically, it hides the guts of the system, the technical part, and allows somebody with a good idea to get their good idea out there without having to know how to format things in HTML. Okay. So, I'll confess that system administrators probably don't need much hand-holding, but they're not the only ones generating this content. Somebody might have come up with a good idea. I don't know. Okay, let's say you have a technical writing staff, and you give something to them, and they go, "Hey, let's do a frequently asked questions on this." And you go, "Great, go right ahead." And then it's okay, it's time to put this on the web, and they don't know how. Okay, that's what a content management system. A culture of respect, 561. So living documents actually require some respect. I mean, you need to be able to add comments, and maybe there's a moderation system. Like, for example, here, I could put a comment. Maybe I want to make them anonymous. I don't know, depending on your scenario, where you could comment on these things and say, well, why on earth did we do this? And when was this done? Are you sure this is right? That kind of stuff. That'd be fantastic. So it's a matter of respect. If you say the law is the law and that's it, they're not going to respect this thing. But if they think they're part of the solution and can help, then they will. The taxonomy and structure of the documentation, page 561. So, a low barrier to entry is why, like, the wikis came up. It allows me to produce a web page with practically nothing. I download a piece of software from an organization called Wiki, and it produces this website for me. I don't have to do practically anything. And then I just allow people to start adding content. I do need some sort of organization, I'll confess, and maybe use like a template for future ones. For example, if I go here and say I want to add something here, let's go down to the bottom. I want to add a page. Oh, well, this is a bad example. Anyway, when I want to add a page to this thing, it basically gives me a template. It says, well, here's how our pages typically look. And so you just kind of go through and fill in the things. Okay, additional documentation. So on page 562, so self-help documentation type. It could have like the current status of things, upcoming maintenance windows, those kinds of things. That would be good. In other words, I don't have to call up my ISP and say, hey, when's your next maintenance window out? Because I need to do X, Y, and Z. It'll be on some web page or some documentation, or maybe they email it to me. Internal. So it's possible that a group only wants to make their internal procedures available to their own people and not others in the organization. That's possible. Like the auditing group. The auditors basically need to talk among themselves, but they don't need to be telling other people, well, here's how we do this. Okay. A how-to. How-to, that's, for example, like the hands-on or mostly how-tos, just step-by-step instructions on how to do this with a little bit of philosophy thrown in. A frequently asked questions, an FAQ. So, yeah, a lot of things have FAQs. So I have a frequently asked question part on my thing. I click here and it says, man, are you sure I get a message here? How come I get that? And where can I get this? And what about this? And so, yeah, frequently asked questions. And so when you do this, that means I get fewer number of emails saying, well, I don't understand how this worked. Well, did you look at so putting stuff outside, particularly the frequently asked questions, cuts down on my work. Okay, good. A reference list, perhaps a list of hyperlinks that go into more details. For example, in some of the hands-on, I have a little reference link that basically, if you wanted to go learn more, here's where you click on this and go get some more. Procedures, checklists, scripts, things like that. And then a technical library. The technical library is probably going to be printed form. Like, I bought a router and it came with a set of paper documentation, you know, how to install it, how to configure it. So I put that in a shelf somewhere, a technical library. There's probably only one copy of it. Okay, kind of makes sense. Off-site links, page 562. You know, make sure your website's own directory structure doesn't give away something that's going on. In the example in the book, they talk about how this guy has a new product he's thinking about. And so his directory structure on the web page is, instead of just like FAQ, it says, you know, new kumquat project / FAQ. And so by virtue of having directory names that point to like a new feature release, like let's say you went to a game developer and you were looking at their FAQ and it says, you know, Far Cry 6. And you go, oh, okay. And then you flip around, okay, Far Cry 7. And you go, wait, that doesn't exist yet. Are they really going to have a new release? No, you've given away information about things. So be careful. And you can have a complicated directory structure for your web page, but then you can actually use this other thing called redirection services, so that when you ask for this FAQ, it'll find it regardless of where it is in the path. And that way you don't have to expose your directory structure. Your directory structure is for you, but from a web perspective, they don't need to know the directory structure, particularly if the names of the folders give away a company secret or a future product or something. Okay, we've made it to the end of this chapter, and I'll see you guys in the next chapter.